I'm dealing in nature. I love it. It's a great view up here. Haven't been up here in a while, right? Oh my God, just nature. I wanted to sit down somewhere. I can't sit on the grass because it'll wet my ass. And also the lighting and all that other good stuff. So I think this rock, oh, it has water, so that means, what are those things? Squeeters, mosquitoes. Camp mosquitoes. But, damn, I don't really want to sit here. That's not gonna work. I thought there was another rock over here. So, oh yeah, there is another rock. A rock. So, we're gonna talk in a second. Let me just try to get settled up in here. Don't be trying to figure out where I am, where I live at, and all that other weird stuff. Cause y'all be crazy out in these streets. Trust me, I know from experience. Anyways, we're talking about self-love today. Also, this is my intro kind of video, more or less. I may or may not do more of these, depending on how I feel. I'm spontaneous, so yeah. Oh, there's no freaking sun here. Oh, but I am on a rock. Oh, I don't want to be in the background of that. Crystal, you just can't. You can't. So just keep going. Yeah. So, self-care. So much self-care, especially in the past couple of years, right? Everybody's talking about self-care, engage in self-care, take care of yourself, self-care. You gotta first ask yourself why, if you do need self-care, do I need self-care? And what does that look like? Because we're talking about self-care, and to have self-care or the practice of self-care, what do you do? What does that entail? What does that involve? Basically what it looks like, what it's been looking like on like social media, on the internet and stuff like that. What self-care has been looking like is, oh, take a bath, drink a glass of wine, relax, let your hair down, don't do any of that stuff. But is that really contributing to self-care? After you do those rituals, do you feel better? Do you feel relieved? How often do you practice self-care? Is it all the time? Is it once in a while? Do you do it every day? Do you every couple of hours? What is the litmus in regards to self-care? When is it not self-care? When are we overdoing self-care? When does self-care become so much about the self that it becomes selfish? Because my perspective, self-care, it's not about, taking a bath and relaxing and de-stressing and all that stuff like that. This is my tree. Look at it. It's got a little bit thicker. Anyways, the self-care, it looks like a bath and stuff like that. Lost my train of thought. Tree got to me. So. Yeah, what does that look like? What does that entail? So for me and my perspective, self-care, yes, it's those taking a bath and all that other stuff, but self-care is also about mindfulness. How are you treating each other? How are you treating yourself? How are others treating you? How are you taking in things that people are saying, doing, whatever, your perception, your intuition? Sometimes you pick up on things about people. Well, that's what I'm learning, what self-care is, more so than just, relax, take a bath. Writing, journaling, that is definitely a great form of self-care. What is not self-care? Or what is excessive self-care? Well, I'm going to answer that question in a moment, or get back to that in a moment. But as far as, self-care, think about the analogy that we often use or get or come across that's like, when you're in an airplane, you gotta put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Yes, you have to take care of yourself first in that sense, self-care. I gotta take care of myself before I can take care of anybody else. I gotta make sure I'm good, I gotta make sure that my immediate family's good. But again, when does it become selfish? because it's self-care, self-care, self-care. We're taking care of myself. I got to put myself first. I got to take care of me. I got to do me. I got to get the bag. I got to do this. I got to hustle. I got to do this. I got to do I got to take care of myself. Self-care, self-care, self-care. All in the meantime, you're completely neglecting others. You're not showing compassion, not being cooperative. You're being cold, standoffish. That is when self-care becomes selfish. Or do you think that that's the point where self-care becomes selfish? Again, of course, you want to be able to care for yourself first, but we're just so caught up on the self, taking care of self, doing for self, making sure self, 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 that we don't have compassion for somebody else. If something's happening to somebody else, we just walk right by. Um, that is still self-care. Somebody's being bullied or something like that, and deep down inside, you know that's wrong, but you don't want to say anything. Is that fair? Is that self-care? Because deep down, again, when something's happening and you see it and you say nothing, you feel guilty inside. And that begins to eat away at you. And then over time, you're still thinking about that memory over and over again. You're beating yourself up. Thus, I need self-care. You know? That's what I've been thinking about lately. It's just like, damn, we're doing all this self-care. And self-care is so selfish, so narcissistic. I hate that word now because it's been used so much, but it's like we're really so much into self that we're too much into self. We're doing too much self-care. We're not taking care of each other because we're so wrapped up in self. It's so like in the world now, especially post-pandemic, everybody's really it's weird. Like I'm seeing the world like differently. We're really about self, and with social media and stuff like that, it's like, look at me, look at what I'm doing, look at what I have, see me, look at me, give me attention, don't you like me, validate me. And it's just like, that's not self-care. That's just you not addressing some trauma that you need to address. That's self-care. How do we healthily do self-care, and how does self-care take care of yourself but also mindful of others? What does that look like? Setting boundaries, boundaries. As we set boundaries for ourselves, as we set standards for ourselves, as we not allow people to do things to harm us, as we make good decisions. Do you think that's a proper way of doing self-care that honors both yourself and others, whomever else should be involved in your life? Maybe. Does self-care, non-toxic self-care, does that look like, what does that look like? Can you uplift somebody else and feel good about it? Can you congratulate somebody else without trying to tear them down to build yourself up? That's, that can seem like self-care. Oh yeah, great for them, but me, I did this, I did that. It's a little selfish. I'm pretty sure there's other thoughts and stuff that I am missing, but this has been on my mind a little bit. Like, damn, self-care, all this self-care, and nobody's not feeling better about their self-care. Like, oh, I still feel horrible. I mean, we all have our ups and downs in life, and that's normal. That is absolutely normal. That's okay. That's all fine. That's fine. You are supposed to go through things in life, but trust and believe you me, when you're not living in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing, life will tell you. Life will hit you upside the head more times than you can count if you're not, careful with your self-care. You're overindulged in the self, overindulged in things to please the self. Everything in moderation. So what do you think? What does self-care look like for you? What is self-care really? What does self-care entail? How can you do self-care in a way that is beneficial to you, but also shows compassion to others? I've been working on a few things with myself, and it's actually been better. It's actually been helping my personal relationships, whether you know it or not. I'm a mom and I have a child, and just being mindful of that self-care thing, it's kind of opened me up a little bit in a way that I'm having a better relationship with my daughter. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is okay. Go me doing the right type of self-care and not the toxic kind where you're just self. I'm only worried about myself and I don't care about anybody else. So let me put me first. I gotta do me. I gotta get the bag. I gotta hustle. Nah, I'm not doing all that. I'm not doing all that. I'm gonna calm the hell down. I'm gonna sit the hell down. I'm gonna put my couple of goals into place, and I'm not doing no more or no less. Also, don't come to me with your problems. I don't care. Like, not being selfish. That's not that. It helping people with their problems and stuff like that. That's borderline. Because again, I've helped people with their problems only to turn around and not be helped, only to turn around and get dissed, only to turn around and be used, only to turn around and get talked about. So it's just like, that's not honoring myself. That's not self-care. So again, on onset of meeting people, that's another way to kind of to practice the proper self-care. Somebody you know, especially if you know people. For example, if you know people, you know the people around you, you've met, and then just random, whether new people or not, you know the characteristics of people. And if you meet somebody or whatever, you're meeting a guy or a girl, and the first thing that they're starting, oh man, my life is messed up. I don't have this, I don't have that. My this just broke down. My that just happened, and this and that. And it's just like, you're starting this off with a pity party? Red flag. Warning, warning, warning. Like, practice self-care. Protect yourself from this individual, because this individual has already started this relationship off with the woe is me. I'm going through this, I'm going through that. Victim mentality. I need your help. It's like, self-care. We gotta look into the self-care, the boundaries. All right, you person, new or old or family member or relative or somebody, you initially are coming to me and you need help. Great. I mean, I understand that everybody needs help, but sir, ma'am, or what have you, whatever you are, at this juncture, knowing that you need all this help, what I can do is provide you with some advice. What you do with said advice is up to you, but please, after I give you this advice, if you do not take my advice, don't come to me again with these same problems. Matter of fact, try not to come to me again with more problems, because if you continue to come to me with your problems first, and you start off with problems, I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm not your problem solver, especially when you're in, these people are the ones who create these problems, and that's like, it's not them, and they have all these problems, because I've been a victim. I've done this myself. I've had a version of this myself. I know, because I recognize it in the other people, in the relationships that I encounter. And I encounter people, I like to think of them as mirrors. So am I practicing self-care or am I not, based on the people that I'm meeting? And depending on the relationships that I form and how I feel, that'll let me know, like, hey, you're not practicing self-care by dealing with this person, or maybe you are. This is a healthy friendship, or this, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta decipher that. So yeah, use discernment. Discern whether or not the people that are coming into your life or coming into you, are they helping you? Are they hurting you? Are they aiding to the practice of your self-care? I mean, everybody you can use this kind of litmus test to see if it's self-care or not. Practice it. Hey, oh, nice to meet you, da da da, or family member, friend. Oh my God, this happened, that happened. Do you really want to hear it? Is it gonna grow you? Is it helping yourself? Is it nourishing you? Is it feeding you? Is it taking care of you? Is it providing care for you? That's what self-care is to me, in my opinion. It's not, yeah, it's ritualistic, of course. Maybe meditation is self-care. Yes, yoga is self-care. Working out is self-care. Those actions are self-care, but there's also actions that you need to take into consideration when dealing with other people. That's also self-care. And to be mindful of not allowing the caring for self to override completely everything else. There's other people in this world. There's other things to experience. And when you just close yourself off and you're just worried about self, caring for just self, you know what I mean? It becomes, it becomes a little toxic. Not toxic, I don't want to use that term. It becomes just a little standoffish. It becomes a little cold. You become a little distant and a little more aloof, If that makes any sense, let me know in the comments below. Let me know how you feel, think. Has self-care become selfish? Are we too involved in the self? What do you think? Let me know. And yeah, thank you for looking inside the crystal locket. And see you next time.